ask us any questions that you have on any aspect of English law. On this show, I'm able to cover a vast, diverse range of matters. Matters ranging from family law matters, criminal law matters. So whatever your legal questions are, please do get in touch. Two ways to get in touch. You can ring on the landline number which appears at the bottom of the screen. Alternatively, a very popular way of getting in touch is to send us a message on the mobile number which also appears at the bottom of the screen. So landline number for live calls and the mobile number there for messages that you want to send in. Mashallah, we get numerous questions coming in on immigration law, which is fantastic. So please do continue to send your questions in and we'll try and address your questions live on air. Now, in my experience, the vast majority of questions that come in, I am able to deal with them live on air. Now, if your matter is complex and I need to speak to you off air, or if your matter is complex and I need to look at your documents, that's not a problem. I can do that off air and I can advise you properly, thoroughly. And this is a service that we provide completely free of charge, even if I need to speak to you off air after looking at your documents. So feel free to get in touch. There's no issue in relation to fees whatsoever. It's a free legal advice show. I can advise you on your matters live during the show. And also, if need be, I can have a conversation with you off air if you feel that your matter is a bit complex. But please do continue to send your questions in. Now, we've had a number of questions coming in on WhatsApp. So let's look at some of those questions that have been coming in. Now, one of the first questions that's come in is in relation to sponsor licenses. Again, a very popular question in practice at the moment, sponsor licenses. A lot of people have managed to get a sponsor license, and it's what a business needs, what an employer needs in order to sponsor somebody to come to the United Kingdom from abroad in order to work for them. Now, certainly up until, say, about 6 months ago, it was relatively easy to obtain a sponsor license. The problem that's occurred recently is that the Home Office has become much stricter in terms of who it's willing to issue a sponsor license to. They now seem to be asking significantly more questions if you as a business apply for a sponsor license. And this is something that we've seen over the last few months. There's been a real change in approach in dealing with sponsor license applications. So if you want to apply for a sponsor license, what I generally advise is that you have to be able to show that your business is doing reasonably well. And the reason I say that is that what the Home Office wants to look at is your business able to afford to pay for the skilled worker that it is going to employ, whether it's on £38,700 per year or whether it's on a slightly lower salary of £31,000 a year. Is your business going to be able to employ this person? And to be able to employ this person, the view that the Home Office takes is that, does your business generate enough turnover, enough profits to be able to employ this person? Now, what I tend to advise clients, and this is not something which is cast in stone, is generally speaking, if you're a new business or even if you've been running for a while, ideally, whatever type of business it is, you need 4 or 5 employees in your business. And ideally, you need turnover of approximately £25,000 or something in that region. That will make it much easier for you to obtain your sponsor license. And the other thing that it will do is that once you've obtained your sponsor license and you want to employ somebody, and the Home Office is to ask you more detailed questions about the person that you wish to employ and whether you can afford to employ that person, the fact that you've got a number of employees working for you already, the fact that you've got reasonable turnover, that's really going to help you to obtain a sponsor, not only a sponsor license, but also to be able to sponsor the specific person that you want to sponsor from abroad. So what I would suggest is that, look, sponsor licenses, you're still able to successfully apply for them. It is becoming more difficult to get your application through, but there are ways in which you can make your application stronger. If you have a number of employees working for you, if you've got a reasonable turnover, if you're VAT registered, if you've got a reasonable website, all these things help in you being able to sponsor your worker from abroad. So keep that in mind if you're looking at applying for a sponsor license. Fine. Now, the next question that's come in is from Sumera, and her question relates to an extension application. And what Sumera is asking is as follows. Let me just read a question. When you extend the visa, does the salary need to be £18,600, like when applying for the spouse visa, or is it, when you apply for an extension, is it just a normal salary and you can get your visa extended with low income? Sumera, thank you very much for that question. And the position is reasonably straightforward. In the same way that a financial requirement had to be satisfied, whether it was 18,600, whether it was higher, or whether there was a different way of meeting the financial requirement, similar rules apply when you extend the visa. Now, at the moment, obviously, those who are in the UK on a spouse visa, they are all here in the UK on the £18,600 requirement. We've had the new requirement that's come in at £29,000 a year, but that's only recently come in, so nobody's going to be extending on that visa anytime soon. That's going to be a couple of years down the line. So whoever's in the UK at the moment, certainly for next year and the year after, they will all be extending under the old £18,600 rule. So when they extend their visa, the same financial requirement will apply. They need to be earning £18,600 per annum in order to extend their visa. Now, that's a general rule. There are exceptions to that. For example, is somebody in receipt of carers allowance, somebody in receipt of PIP, etc. But if you disregard those exceptions and you simply look at what the rule is, generally speaking, when you extend your visa, you've come to the United Kingdom under the £18,600 requirement. When you extend your visa, you will at that stage have to fulfill the £18,600 requirement as well. Thank you very much for that question. Next question that's come in from Brother Awais is that, and he says, this is Awais, he says, I did my MSc from the UK, then after that I got a PSW. I then got a sponsor from a restaurant from Manchester. After a few months, his license was revoked and I got an email and I started looking for other jobs. I have until 28th of October before my visa comes to an end. Thank you, Awais, for that question. Again, this is a very common scenario where somebody manages to find skilled work employment, and unfortunately, the sponsor license that the employer has is revoked. It comes to an end, and it then obviously means that you, as the skilled worker employed by that business, you will find that your visa is going to be curtailed as well. Now, what can you do in that situation? You have some options. They are limited in nature. And this is what I would advise you, Brother Awais. Look, in terms of timing, I would say that you're okay for the time being. You do have a bit of time. I know your visa expires on the 28th of October. It is possible to apply for an extension to try and get a bit more time. The extension will never be granted. But whilst the application is being processed, you will remain legal. It'll give you a bit more time to look at a more permanent solution. So, Brother Awais, what are these permanent solutions? And this is what I advise clients who find themselves in the situation that you're in. Number one, easier said than done. look for another employer who can sponsor you as a skilled worker. In the same way that you've got skilled worker visa at the moment, try and look for another employer who can employ you as a skilled worker, and then you transfer your sponsorship to that new employer. As I say, that's more easily said than done. Secondly, difficult, if you're able to set up a business with a friend, etc., you employ a few people, you invest a bit of money, and if it looks like a credible, sustainable business, potentially you could obtain a sponsor license on that business, and you could sponsor yourself on the business that you have purchased as well. And you might have heard of the term self-sponsorship. That's what we're talking about there. Thirdly, you could try and move completely out of this route. For example, you could go back to studying. That's obviously based on a university that's prepared to offer you a place and offer you a place as an international student. You could look at another option apart from skilled work and student visas. You could look at, if your circumstances are as such, you could look at whether you can move into a spouse visa, marriage to somebody who's got British citizenship or indefinite leave to remain in the UK. So potentially you could look at that option as well. So you could look at staying within the skilled worker route or moving out of the skilled worker route as well. So look, you do have a bit of time. I understand your visa is coming to an end on the 28th of October, which is fine. If you don't find anything straight away, submit an application on human rights grounds. It'll get you a bit more time. That takes us to the first break. Inshallah, we'll be back in the next couple of minutes. See you then.
Sainsbury's? Are we made of money?
Hey Sainsbury's, explain it, will you?
Well, the same effort we put into our baking
goes into matching prices.
Remarkable, we've actually come in under budget.
Get it now?
Already got it.
Sainsbury's, good food for all of us.
Our generation's risk of illnesses, like measles and whooping cough, is rising.
If we're not vaccinated,
We're not protected.
and could get seriously ill, risking lifelong disabilities.
Are your child's vaccines up to date?
I'm in. Now, you ready for a good day?
He was a scientific hypothesis. She was a clinical study. And the future breakthrough that could cure her is closer than ever. With our research, we can keep saving lives like hers. Donate now to turn science fiction into reality.
Sainsbury's? Are we made of money?
Hey Sainsbury's, explain it, will you?
well. The same effort we put into our baking
Goes into matching prices.
Remarkable, we've actually come in under budget.
Get it now?
Already got it.
Sainsbury's, good food for all of us.
Assalamu alaikum and welcome back to the free legal advice show on British Muslim TV. I'm your host Ilyas Bulbulia. To speak to me live on air, please ring on the landline number which appears at the bottom of the screen. Alternatively, another popular way of getting in touch is to send us a message on the mobile number which also appears at the bottom of the screen. Now, we've had a number of questions coming in. Let's look at some of the questions that have been coming in and let's see what the best course of action it is for our viewers. Now, the next question that's come in is from Sister Sunila, and this is a slightly different question. It relates to divorce, and what Sister Sunila is asking for is fairly straightforward. I have applied for a divorce online. Could you give me a rough idea how long the court will take to process my divorce application? Now, that's fine. That's a fairly straightforward question. Now, it is now reasonably easy for people to apply if they're wanting to divorce. It's reasonably easy to apply for a divorce online. It's not too complicated. The process, if both sides are agreed, normally takes around 6 months to 7 months. So that's the kind of time frame we're looking at in terms of obtaining a divorce. There are various stages that you need to go through in order to get your final decree absolute, and there's some various steps you need to take. But assuming both parties play ball, so when the person who makes the divorce application to the court, once the court processes the application and sends it to the partner, the ex-partner, as long as they respond in time, it's likely that the divorce will proceed fairly quickly after that. So, generally speaking, it takes around 6 to 7 months in order to obtain a decree absolute for that process to come to an end. That's assuming that both parties are doing their bits at the right time. Now, if it's the case that when, for example, you apply for a divorce, your ex-partner is being difficult, evasive, isn't responding to the divorce petition, then it could take much longer than that, because the petition has to be served on him or her, and the amount of time it takes for that to be done, it could be a matter of weeks, it could be a couple of months. If it can't be traced, what's going to happen is that's going to be time that's going to get wasted as such. So that could delay the process. So instead of it taking 6, 7 months, it could take 8, 9 months to get the process completed. Hope that helps. The next question that's come in is from Awais, and his question relates to applying for nationality. And his question is in relation to referees. And he asks, when applying for nationality, I understand you need 2 referees. Please, can you explain who the referees can be when applying for British nationality? That's fine. It's correct. When you apply for nationality, whether you're a child, whether you're an adult, or whether whatever your situation is, when it comes to nationality, you do need 2 referees. The referees can't be related to you. One person has to be a professional person. The other person can be a non-professional person, or could be a professional person as well. So there are some rules surrounding who a referee can be when you apply for British nationality. So sometimes people struggle with getting a professional referee, but one of the referees has to be a professional referee. It could be a teacher, it could be a doctor, it could be a counsellor, it could be an accountant, a nurse. There are various, a minister of religion, so there are various different categories of people who the Home Office is prepared to accept as a professional person for the purposes of being a referee for a nationality application. So, Brother Awais, one person would have to be a professional person, the other person can be a non professional person. They would need to sign the referee form, and they would need to provide certain details about themselves, typically their name, their date of birth, their address, their passport number, their occupation, etc. And that is information that is inputted into your nationality application form, and then your referee forms, which are signed by both referees, they are then sent off with your application. I hope that answers your question. The next question that's come in is from Brother Bashir, and his question relates to, let me read the question out. Salams, if I need to apply for a taxi badge now, how can I prove my right to work if my application for indefinite leave is pending? Okay, so what brother is asking is, if he wants to become a taxi badge holder, he obviously has to prove his right to work to the council. Understandable. How does he prove that is legal, his status, his right to work, if his application is currently pending? So, is applying for indefinite leave to remain. Clearly from the question, what's apparent is that the old visa has expired, and I'm assuming that is applied for indefinite leave to remain on a time. So how do you prove your status? Now, the difficulty with this is that the practice of councils when it comes to the taxi badge process, the taxi licensing, is different. Some may be prepared to accept confirmation that you have applied for your indefinite leave to remain, or you've got any other application pending, and normally with your reference number, you're able to check whether somebody's right to work is pending or not. So it's possible for the council to check whether you've applied and whether your right to work is pending or not. Now, if they do that, assuming in your situation you've applied for your indefinite leave in time, it will show up that you've got the right to work. Unfortunately, some councils aren't prepared to do that. Their view is very much, look, if you want to apply for a taxi badge, or if you've got a taxi badge, the expiry of that is going to coincide with your visa. So if you want to continue working, or if you're applying for a taxi badge for the first time, they want to see your visa having been granted, your visa in place. What they're not prepared to do is to, this is what a lot of councils are doing, they're not prepared to accept the code that you receive from the Home Office when you submit the application, which can be used to confirm that you have the right to work and you have a pending application. Some councils are not prepared to go down that route at all. They're saying you must have your leave in place when you either apply for a new license, a new badge, or you apply to extend your badge. Now, this does cause difficulties. The only thing I would suggest that if you are in a situation where you want to apply for a taxi badge, what I would suggest is you should use the priority fast track service. You should pay the extra fees, and you should obtain your decision straight away. So with the fast track service, you are able to get things wrapped up fairly quickly in the space of well, it used to be a few days. At the moment, there are problems in obtaining a biometric appointment, so it could take longer. It could take a week or so. So you do need to do this, use the fast track service, and get your application approved, over and done with quickly, because a lot of councils simply will not accept anything else. They won't accept you giving them a code which will enable them to check that you have applied in time and you are legal at the moment because you have an application pending. They're simply not prepared to make those inquiries. But thank you very much indeed for that question. Next question that's come in is from Suleiman. And what Suleiman is asking is, asking a question on behalf of his wife. And he says that my wife has an Indian passport, and within that passport, she has her indefinite leave to remain sticker. Can she apply for an e-visa? Now, Brother Suleiman, if she wants to apply for an e-visa, she will have to apply for a biometric residence permit first. You can't go from your passport with the indefinite sticker straight to an e-visa. You have to apply for a biometric residence permit first. Once you've done that, you will be able to then apply for an e-visa for your wife. So it is a two-step process. And I would advise that you do start this process. The reason for that is from the 1st of January 2025, most places will not accept the fact that you've got indefinite leave to remain. Confirmation of your indefinite in your passport will not be acceptable after the 1st of January 2025. So what I would advise is to really get a move on and get this in place now. That takes us to our next break. Inshallah, we'll be back in the
Sainsbury's? Oh, we made our money.
Hey Sainsbury's, explain it, will you?
Well, the same effort we put into our baking
Goes into matching prices.
Remarkable. We've actually come in under budget.
Get it now?
Already got it.
Sainsbury's. Good food for all of us.
Our generation's risk of illnesses, like measles and whooping cough, is rising.
If we're not vaccinated,
We're not protected.
and could get seriously ill. Risking lifelong disabilities.
Are your child's vaccines up to date?
I'm in. Now, you ready for a good day?
He was a scientific hypothesis. She was a clinical study. And the future breakthrough that could cure her is closer than ever. With our research, we can keep saving lives like hers. Donate now to turn science fiction into reality.
Sainsbury's? Oh, we made our money.
Hey Sainsbury's, explain it, will you?
well, the same effort we put into our baking
Goes into matching prices.
Remarkable. We've actually come in under budget.
Get it now?
Already got it.
Sainsbury's. Good food for all of us.
Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back to the Free Legal Advice Show on British Muslim TV. I'm your host, Ilyas Bulbulia. To speak to me live on air, please ring on the landline number which appears on the bottom of the screen. And as always, a popular way of getting in touch is to send us a message on the mobile number which also appears at the bottom of the screen. If you send me a message there, I'll be able to see your message live here in the studio, and I will be able to address any questions that you have live on air. We've had a number of questions coming in. Let's look at the next question that's come in. Let's get to the next one. Now, and that's a question from Sister Huma, and her question is as follows. Does a person who is in the UK as an EU family member with an EU residence card, not a permit, a residence card, do they need to apply for an e-visa? So in practice, this is a question that's coming up quite regularly. The position is this. In terms of people with visas, it is those people who are here in the UK and they've got a biometric residence permit, not a biometric residence card. So biometric residence permit is generally students, skilled workers, those who are in the UK on the basis of marriage, etc. Those people will have a biometric residence permit. They need to register for an e-visa. However, those who have a residence card, European nationals, etc., they don't need to register for an e-visa. So there's a real distinction there. And regularly, people are coming up with this question because it's unclear to them. They have become aware now that people are registering for an e-visa. And obviously, it's difficult for the general public to distinguish between the different types of cards, the different types of visas that people hold. But the position is this, that as far as those with a biometric residence permit is concerned, yes, they need to apply for an e-visa. However, those who are Europeans or the European family members with British residence cards, they don't need to apply for an e-visa. And the reason for that is this, that the way the EU settlement scheme was set up, all this data was already gathered and it's set up for an e-visa already. So the process that people are going through now, they don't need to go through that process because it's already all been set up. So the short answer, Huma, to that question is that because the person has a biometric residence card, person is a family member of an EU national with a residence card, they don't need to apply for an e-visa. If they need to prove their right to live in the UK, to work in the UK, they will be able to do that because they already have a UKVI account. So they are able to generate a share code. They are able to provide a share code to an employer. If you're renting a house, they're able to provide a share code to the landlord. So that system already exists for somebody who has a biometric residence card. So they don't need to now go through the same processes again. They've already done that. But thank you very much indeed for that question. Now, the next question that's come in is from Brother Firoz, and his question relates to sponsor license. And what Brother Firoz says is that the business already has a sponsor license and employs a couple of foreign migrants under the license. Is it now difficult to get permission to employ more people under the sponsor license? Now, I understand where you're coming from, bearing in mind what I said on the earlier part of the show when we started, that it is becoming increasingly difficult to obtain permission to employ migrants. And what happens is that you may already have a sponsor license. However, when you apply for permission to sponsor somebody, what the Home Office will do is they will, in most cases, ask you to justify why you need to sponsor that person. Okay, you've got your license, but why do you need to justify? Why do you need this person? You need to justify why do this person. So they will want you to provide your hierarchy chart, your turnover, an explanation as to how the salary for this person will be funded. So they'll want a couple of different explanations, a couple of different documents in order to be satisfied that this person is genuinely required by your business. So yes, Brother Firoz, you're completely right that if you already have the license, but if you want to sponsor somebody, get permission to sponsor somebody, it is very likely that the Home Office will ask you questions about why you need this person. Can you afford this person? They are making significantly more inquiries now when you're asking for permission to sponsor somebody. But thank you very much indeed for that question. Now, the next question that's come in is from Nazir, and Nazir's question relates to a spouse application. Okay, and what Nazir says is as follows. And he says, it's a question in relation to a friend. He says, Assalamu alaikum. I have a friend who is currently on a salary of approximately £9,000 a year. They want to sponsor their wife to come to the United Kingdom. How much do they need to be earning in their second job in order to meet the current £29,000 requirement? So the short answer for that is that they need to be earning approximately £2,400 per, or just over that. It's about 2,420 a month to be able to sponsor somebody from abroad. So if you're earning 2,420 and over 12 months, that would get you your £29,000. So that's the level of income that you need. So if you're already earning a certain amount of money, that gives you an idea on a monthly basis, the extra that you need to get to that 2,420. So for example, if you're earning £1,000 a month, you need to earn an extra £1,420 a month in order to get to that £29,000 salary requirement. It could be that your job doesn't have a fixed salary. It could be that it's a job where the salary is on hourly based, in which case you will look at your income over 6 months. And if you're looking at your income over 6 months, then it's simply a question of dividing £29,000 by 2, £14,500. So if you've got salary, which is more in 1 month, less in another because it's hourly paid, you, over 6 months, count how much you've received, and you need to be earning £14,500. And if it's fixed salary, you need to be hitting that 2,420 a month. So that's the answer. It's not a problem that the job is, the income requirement is met by 2 jobs. That's not a problem. That's allowed. You can combine your income. And indeed, you could combine your income with a number of other sources of income as well. So, for example, you can combine it with self-employment, certain rules apply, combine it with rental income, you can combine it with dividend income, you can combine it with savings, etc. So there are various different ways, different rules that you can use to fulfill this £29,000 requirement. Now, I accept it's difficult at the moment to earn this kind of money. Certainly up north, you tend to find that those who are in their early to mid-20s, they're going to be earning significantly less than that. They're starting out in their career, in their job, with maybe limited experience, and the kind of earnings that they're going to have is going to be the early to mid-20s. Maybe 22,000, 23,000, 24,000. It's difficult to reach that £29,000 mark. And what I would advise clients that if you're in this difficult situation, then look at how you can supplement your income, whether it's with a second job, whether it's with savings, whether it's with rental income, dividend income, whatever else it is. There are ways and means by which the £29,000 requirement can actually be met. But thank you very much indeed for that question. Now, the next question that's come in is from Brother Ibra, and again it's a question relating to spouse obligation, and his question again is about finances, and he says, if I'm on carer's allowance, how much do I need to be earning to sponsor my wife to come to the UK? That will take me a bit of time to answer, and we're going to our next break. When we come back from our break, inshallah, I'll go into this in a bit of detail. We'll see you in the next few minutes. Assalamu alaikum.
Sainsbury's? Oh, he made her money.
Hey Sainsbury's, explain it, will you?
Well, the same effort we put into our baking
Goes into matching prices.
Remarkable. We've actually come in under budget.
Get it now?
Already got it.
Sainsbury's. Good food for all of us.
Our generation's risk of illnesses, like measles and whooping cough, is rising.
If we're not vaccinated,
We're not protected.
and could get seriously ill. Risk of lifelong disabilities.
Are your child's vaccines up to date?
I'm in. Now, you ready for a good day?
He was a scientific hypothesis. She was a clinical study. And the future breakthrough that could cure her is closer than ever. With our research, we can keep saving lives like hers. Donate now to turn science fiction into reality.
Sainsbury's? Oh, he made her money.
Hey Sainsbury's, explain it, will you?
well, the same effort we put into our baking
Goes into matching prices.
Remarkable. We've actually come in under budget.
Get it now?
Already got it.
Sainsbury's. Good food for all of us.
Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back to the Free Legal Advice Show on British Muslim TV. I'm your host, Ilyas Bulbulia. To speak to me live on air, please ring on the landline number which appears at the bottom of the screen. Alternatively, a very popular way of getting in touch is to send me a message on the mobile number which also appears at the bottom of the screen. Mashallah, we've had a number of questions coming in. Please do continue to send your questions in. I'll get your questions here live on air, and then I can go through your questions and I can advise you in detail. Right, let's look at the next question that's been fed through here. And the next question is from Sister Anisa, and her question again is to do with a spouse application, and it's similar to what we were discussing before. And she says, she's concerned, I think, by this. What Sister Anisa says is that my documents are ready to apply for my husband's visa. I'm concerned about my salary, in that my salary goes up and down. I've got 2 jobs. In some months, my salary is quite high. In others, it drops. Will that cause a problem? Now, in practice, again, this comes up quite regularly. What we need to look at is where you've got a situation where the income from employment varies. What you need to look at is whether the job is fixed salary employment or whether it's one which is hourly paid. The problem occurs if the job is fixed salary. The problem occurs because with fixed salary employment, so let's say somebody works in an office and they have a salary of £30,000 a year. And it's fixed. They come in, they work 9 to 5, and they're on that £30,000 a year. It's not based on the hours that they work. The problem with that is that if in a particular month your income drops for whatever reason, you've taken unpaid leave or whatever it is, the problem you've then got is that the Home Office will take into account your lowest salary in those 6 months and simply use that as your salary from that employment. So if you're used to getting £2,500 per month, but in 1 month, for whatever reason, it drops to £1,500 because you've taken unpaid leave. So the Home Office won't look at what you've earned over 6 months. They'll look at the lowest salary you've received, £1,500, and use that as your income. So they'll say, well, so it's £1,500 this month, times by 12, £18,000, that's your income. So that's the problem, Sister Anisa, with employment which has a fixed salary. Now, if you fall into that category, it might be problematic for you. If you're an hourly paid person, then it's different because it's more helpful. Because if you're hourly paid, you simply look at how much you've earned in those 6 months. Whether it goes up, down, it doesn't matter. You work out the actual amount that you've earned, then you average out what you've earned a month. But in reality, you can simply add up what you've earned in the 6 months and multiply that by 2. That's your annual income. So it depends, Sister Anisa, and we don't have enough information to work out what your situation is. I appreciate what you're saying, that your salary goes up and down. Understand that. It really depends on your wage slips. I'd need to look at your wage slips to make that judgment call, whether yours is a fixed employment with a fixed wage, or whether it's one which is hourly paid, where the income goes up and down. But thank you very much indeed for that message. The next question, oh no, we're coming towards the end of the show, but let's just look at the next question that's come in, and that is from Brother Suleiman. And what Brother Suleiman is asking is, in the processing times for, and he says he submitted an FLR-FP application, so that's the form that he's completed. And if we look at his bit of detail, so Suleiman says, I'm on the 10-year route and I've submitted form FLR-FP to extend my application. Fine. extend my visa, how long will it take for my application to be concluded, to be processed? Okay, now, fair enough. The FLR FP application, generally the 10-year route application, is one of those applications which does take a long time to be decided upon. So generally speaking, when you submit applications, a normal, if you're here on a spouse visa, you're extending your visa, normally it takes 3 months, 4 months for that application to be decided. An FLR FP application is one of those applications which does take a long time to be decided. Now, in my experience, they are taking around 10 months to 12 months for those applications to be decided. So it is taking a considerable amount of time. The only thing I would suggest that if you're in a situation where you do want your decision back quickly, then when you apply for the extension of your visa, use the fast track service. It does cost an extra £1,000, but it will avoid you having to wait 10, 12 months for a decision on your application, because you need to bear in mind that if it does take 10 to 12 months for your application to be decided, you won't be able to leave the country whilst the application is in process. So if you do need to travel, you can't wait, then use the fast track service. The problem with the form that you've mentioned, the 10-year route, FLR, FP route, it does take around 10 months for that application to be determined. So it does take a long time. But thank you very much indeed for that question. Let's look at the next question that's come in, and that is from Brother Khawar. And what Brother Khawar is saying is asking a question in relation to his mum, and he's saying, my mother has been in the UK for 20 years. She's got a visa on that basis. What does she need to extend her visa? So she already has a visa on the basis that she's been in the UK for 20 years. She's completed her 2.5 years. What does she need in order to extend her visa again? Now, I think from what you're saying, although we don't have a lot of detail, I think from what you're saying, your mother must have lived in the UK for 20 years. Some of that might be lawful, unlawful, but based on her long residence, she's managed to obtain leave to remain in the UK. And I think what you're now asking is that she's probably completed 2.5 years. What does she need to extend? Now, this is, in my experience, one of the easier applications, because the visa has been granted already on the basis of your long residence. So you just basically need to show that you've been living in the UK for the last 2.5 years. So by the stage you're applying, you've probably done about 22.5, 23 years already anyway. So it's still an application which is based on your private life in the UK, and you simply have to show that you've been living in the United Kingdom. So applications reasonably straightforward. It would involve you submitting a copy of your passport, scanned copy. You're submitting your BRP card, your residence permit. You're submitting the consent forms that the Home Office require you to submit. And what I would then suggest is, look, if you're working, there's no requirement for you to be working. There's no requirement for this evidence to be filed. But if you're working, submit your wage slips and your bank statements. If you are not working, it doesn't matter. If you're self-employed, submit evidence of that. Again, it's not mandatory, it's not relevant, but it just makes the application look more complete. And I think it does help in getting the application processed more quickly. The key thing is some evidence of your residence in the UK, some proof that you've been living in the UK. What I tend to do, and I don't think this is an absolute requirement anyway, is that since the last visa was granted some 2.5 years ago, I would submit some evidence of your residence in the United Kingdom over the last 2.5 years. So if you were applying now towards the end of 2024, I would include evidence for the period 2022, 2023 and 2024, a couple of bills, bank statements for each year to show your continuous residence in the United Kingdom. So, Brother Khawar, that's basically what you have to do for your application. It is, in my experience, one of the more simpler applications to submit. I suspect it's one of those, if you're familiar with scanning documents, completing online forms, uploading documents, it may well be something that you are able to deal with. If you're not sure, then, as I always advise, please do seek advice from an experienced immigration lawyer who should be able to guide you in relation to your application. Now, we've had a number of different questions coming in today. Hope the answers to your questions have been helpful. If you're not sure of any aspect of what we've discussed, then please do get back in touch. Send us your question in again on that mobile number, and I will try and address your query in greater detail. We've had a number of different questions coming in. We've still got some questions that we can go through, but unfortunately, we are heading towards the end of the show. Inshallah, if your questions haven't been answered, then I'll pick them up and answer them next week. But thank you very much for all your contributions. That brings us to the end of the show. Inshallah, we'll be back next week at the same time. Until then, Assalamu alaikum.